The Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living and the Ministry of Dr. Moira Foxe presents Living Ideas.
So, welcome into this tension-free morning. I tell you, I was saying this morning how I laugh so much sometimes when I look at the signage out there. Some of those pictures should be taken and we should make a fun book of them, because it said this week, tension, got some, and underneath was Thanksgiving. Look who's coming to dinner. Yes, it makes me smile many, many times, I have to say. And today we are looking at this thing called tension, and perhaps we'll go away thinking about it in a, not the usual way, but in a more profound and positive way as a result of that. Because we all know what tension is, and the common definition of tension is, a mental or an emotional disturbance, a mental or an emotional state of stress and strain and strife. So it has to do with all of those things, constant angst and worry and concern and always being edgy and nervous and so on. And we all understand that under awareness of tension. We've all experienced it, and we know others who are experiencing it. And psychology and psychiatry, always will tell us, as will ministry, we got to relax, we got to let it go, we've got to be able to release that so that we can find some kind of inner peace. Well, yeah, of course, we'd love that. It's just knowing how to do that. That's our challenge. And so when you're in that state of tension, what happens is usually you find yourself really caught up too much in your own world of living and work, or you're too preoccupied with problems that are real or imagined, or you're too centered in yourself with a focus on your insufficiencies and your sense of lack and inferiority and so on. And that doesn't make John or Mary, a fun person to be around, to say the very least, or a fun person to be in themselves. So we're going to look at tension in another way today as well, in a good way, a positive way, and understand it as an energy, just it's energy that can be used negatively or positively, or directed or misdirected. A certain amount of tension in our lives is very good. Now, if you're a knitter, if you're a sewer, or if you dabble in electricity, you'll understand this. Good tension in knitting and good tension in sewing produces a beautiful result, a perfect result. Same with electricity. If you understand how tension is involved in all of that, and you know how to direct it right, you'll get a wonderful result. Misdirected, and well, you may be around to tell the tale or not. But this is what we're looking at today, that kind of torque, that kind of tension that is good for us, the kind of tension that you need to establish in one of those watches I used to have when I was a small child. I remember 200 years ago in Ireland, I remember the first watch I got. I gave it too much tension. I overwound it, and of course it broke. Well, that's what we do with our first watches when they're those kind of watches. We break them because we don't know any better. So you take one of those watches and you underwind it. You don't give it enough torque, it doesn't work. You overwind it, it doesn't work. It just has to have the right amount of tension for it to work, to be wound up just to that point of perfection so that it can work beautifully for us. Now, you and I are the same, and we call this tension precise and perfect poise. Precise and perfect poise. And it requires of us an ability that we have acquired in order to enter into that perfect state of tension. And all the great ones knew that this was a very great necessity in our lives to achieve this state of being, so that we could function regardless of circumstances and situations with grace and with ease, because we had this perfect poise, and nothing was going to move us one way or another, or take us off center in the right, wonderful sense of that word center, no matter what. Too much praise, too much criticism, too many positive things or too many negative things would not topple us, take us away from that awareness, that sense of centeredness, knowing that everything has a reason, everything has a purpose, and good comes out of everything when we know good comes out of everything. So we keep moving along in the forward direction, and we don't look behind us at what is behind us and should remain behind us, but we're always focused on the good that is before us, the good that we're moving into, and the good that's moving toward us. That's the way we do it. So we stretch ourselves into the good before us. Stretch has a certain amount of tension to it. We stretch ourselves into the good before us, and we know it's there for us, and we're supposed to have it. And so a person with this kind of poise knows that there is nothing and no one can get in the way of their good being accomplished, because it's there for them and they are supposed to have it, experience it, and express it. And that's what that poise does for us. And it comes from something that is greater than we are, and it comes from having that conscious connection with that which is greater than we are. It comes from knowing I am not alone, and I have a very real and present help available to me, the power and the presence of the Christed mind, the Buddha mind within me, to assist me and support me in being this poised and accomplished person. And as I say, the great ones knew the necessity of this. The great poet Tennyson would say, "Oh, for the man that I can be, so that the man that I am can cease to be." And Paul said it, didn't he? He said, "Oh, my goodness me, look at all the things I do that I don't want to do, and all the things that I want to do that I don't do." You see, that's because his torque wasn't right at the time. Just didn't get that balance, you see. And Jesus himself, pointed out the necessity of this perfect tension occurring within us in order to move forward. Because without it, what happens is we fall into inertia, apathy, ambivalence. We fall into what I call whatever land. Whatever. Go with the flow. That's the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's at the good level. At the worst level, it's, oh, life has dealt me such a rotten hand. What am I supposed to do with it? See? And that makes us victims of circumstances. So we don't want to go to the land of whatever, because we will stay in inertia there. We will stay static there. We will be non-moving there as far as forward movement is concerned. And once you get into that state of inertia, I'm telling you, it can be quite difficult to jump out of it again. It's kind of like molasses. It gets more and more sticky, actually, and it's harder to get yourself up and out of it, that sense of ambivalence or whatever. Go with the flow of it. You can't just say go with the flow of it and have no substance underneath that, platform underneath that, foundation underneath that. That kind of attitude is based on sand, and it cannot stand and it cannot hold, and it's not going to give us the kind of security that we need to flourish and to thrive. And this sense of false relaxation, too, that we imbibe sometimes to make us feel relaxed and so on, whether it's medication, drugs you buy over the counter, or whether it's something you smoke, you see, that gives you that sense of, cool, man, yeah, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be all right. Yeah, man. Here, have a puff. You too can be as I am. Yeah, well, if you want to stay in inertia, that's one of the quickest ways to do it. Keep smoking those little things and you will be as ambivalent and in that state of inertia as long as you so choose to be. But when you come back from it, there will be a rude awakening. And then you'll have to make the decision to move into that poised, that power, and that precise precision of perfect tension in your life that causes you to be unmoved by anything outside of yourself that's going on around and about you. And that's where we want to be. And that's why the great Master Teacher Jesus said, you know, I come not to bring you peace, but the sword. What does that mean? Oh my gosh. That means my peace is not the peace of this world. My peace is the peace that passes all understanding. My peace is a peace that causes you to go into divine discontent, to shake you up, to rattle you up, to make you shake, rattle, and rock and roll. Because you have to be in your life, living your life, in order for your life to amount to what it's meant to amount. So that takes focus, precision, commitment, intention, purposefulness, mindfulness. And he shook people up out of their apathy, out of their inertia, saying to them, you do not have to settle for the situations that you are in. You do not have to settle in your ailments. You do not have to continue to feel helpless and hopeless. There is a power, there is a presence within you that can turn that all around. Shake yourself up. Come alive. Be alive. Wake up. This is the first Sunday of Advent, and in the first Sunday of Advent in all the Christian churches, they will be hearing, awake from your slumber, because the light is coming. The dark night is dying and dawn is appearing. Shake yourself up. Get up out of your slumber. Wake up. Wake up. That's the call of Advent. Wake up. Emmanuel is ready to express itself through you if you wake up. But you gotta wake up. Gotta shake yourself up. You got to get out of that sense of slumpage, I call it. Slumpage. Wake up and get up out of your slumpage, because great good awaits you. I love the story, as I was sharing this morning, of that great Danish wonder, masterful sculptor. Torvaldsen was his name, and he had this great idea and great vision that he was called to create this great statue that represented Christ the King, Christ sovereign, Christ in dominion, Christ in command, demanding that sense of realization. He had this vision and he said, I will do this, and it's going to be a masterpiece. Indeed, it well may be the piece of my lifetime. So he created the wonderful clay model of this amazing statue, and he stood back from it and he loved what he had produced, and he thought, yes, why not? The commanding sovereign Christ, after all, he has commanded generations since he arrived on this earth. A great entity deserves this kind of depiction. So off he went that night, feeling absolutely thrilled with his artwork and delighted that it had come through exactly as he had designed it in his own mind. So a strange thing happened that night. Deep fog descended upon the city, entered into his studio, and its misty wetness created a whole different scene with regard to the statue. The statue was changed overnight, and when the artist came in the next day, he was absolutely shocked, went into a terrible state of depression and bitterness at his misfortune. He found that the head had dropped and the hands had dropped down from that throwback sovereign position. The hands from that commanding stance had dropped too, and he didn't like what he saw. It was nothing like what he wanted to present to the world as Christ the King. And as he looked at it, he realized that the head, the face now was much more showing a state of compassion, and the hands were much more outstretched in a pose of service and welcome. And it wasn't what he had in mind. So he brooded and brooded and brooded and brooded for hours. And then a sudden change overcame him. Just as the statue has been transformed, he himself was transformed on the inside. His brooding fell into meditation, and in the meditation he realized, oh my God, this is what was supposed to be the representation of the Christ, the sovereign King. This was the real image that wanted to come through. This is what the world is supposed to receive and see as the Christ, the sovereign one. And so tears of joy again began to fill and well up in him, and he went to the statue and chiseled into it, "Come to me, all you who are labored and burdened, and I will give you rest." And so he stood back from that and he realized, oh, yes, this is my work of a lifetime, and this is the masterpiece that wanted to be expressed. And so you take those images and you look at those images. That first image was a paradigm, a symbology for the kind of individual that is out there trying to chisel a place in the marketplace for himself or herself. The individual that is out there endeavoring to get to the top, whatever the top is. The individual that is out there in the material world endeavoring to conquer the material world. The individual that is caught up in the angst of aggressive competition and all that goes with that. The individual that is just thinking in terms of hunting and gathering and getting and collecting and amassing and realizing financial success and being king in a financial world. That's the paradigm for that. And the second image of the Christ is the paradigm for the one who has a spiritual resilience to them, who has a sense of foundation, who knows that of myself I can do nothing, but the Christ within me can do all things and accomplish all things. I am not alone. I have a very real and present help, the power and the presence of the life within me that breathes me, that lives me, that thinks through me, that feels through me, that acts through me, can create any good thing and can create it with grace, with ease. It's the individual that has achieved that beautiful, precise poise that is required in order to be in the world in a way that takes us into good and more good and more good with grace, with ease and peace and joy and loving relationship and creatively expression. This is the individual who can succeed and achieve without diminishing any person, place, or thing, but rather enhancing every person, place, and thing, who doesn't have to take from in order to get, but is spirit-driven and service-directed. And because that is so, this person is more about being rather than doing, more about giving rather than getting, more about understanding that they are life in expression and here to express more and more and more of the good of life in every precious now new moment. These are the people that have realized that they are connected to the spirit of their souls, the creator of their beings, the lover in their lives. And they are here knowing who they are, what they are, and on purpose. And it's that beautiful torque, that beautiful poise that enables them to be who and what they are. And that's why we're all here, because we are responding to the second paradigm. We respond to the realization that life is good, life is very good. It's to be lived in a celebratory manner. It is given to us to show up in loving service. It is given to us to know the fullness and the plenty and the peace that passes understanding and the complete joy of one who understands and realizes that there's nothing for us to do, but there's everything for us to be. And that everything is to be the life that lives us, the truth of our being, the best of ourselves, the spirit that we are, to allow that to shine through, flow through, and to be in the flow of life. Now, when people say, get with the flow so mindlessly, they don't understand that there's no getting to the flow until you understand that you're in the stream of the flow of life, and more than that, you are the flow of life. Well, some of us don't even know there's a river there. We're way out beyond the river. We're looking for the river. It's dry land out there. Far less even sitting on the edge of it and dappling our feet in it before we get to the middle. Some of us haven't even found the river yet. I'm not knowing that is true of anybody in this room. I know we have found the river. We may be looking into it and dabbling in it. We may not have gone to the middle of it yet, but I know we found the river. It's the river of the waters of life itself, and the waters of life is the power of the infinite intelligence that is in you. You are infinitely intelligent. You are genius. You are capable. You are able. It is given to you to succeed, to achieve. It is given to you to realize good every moment of your life if you so decide and choose and know that that is why and what you're here for. Now, on the other hand, you can stay in inertia. You can say too highly sprung or not sufficiently sprung and do the dance of all of that. It'll be a very slow dance because it's sticky there. As I say, molasses, it's not going to get you moving too quickly, but you gotta move. It's all about moving. It's all about movement. Life is movement. It's never static. And the truth student never knows life being static. The truth student is always open and available to new opportunities and responds to new opportunities when they arise. Doesn't matter how strange they seem or how maybe foolish they look, they'll respond because good comes when good comes, and it can come in all kinds of guises. You never know how your good is going to show up, but you got to be at the airport when the plane arrives, not down at the docks. You got to be at the airport when the plane. By the way, did you see that lovely plane that arrived from New Zealand yesterday, I think it was, that has to do with, of course, the Hobbit movie that's coming up? Yes, I love all of that stuff, that kind of mystical, magical, mythical stuff that always has some moral to it. So when your plane arrives, as I say, be at the airport and be on time, because your plane won't land at the docks. No more than your ship is going to arrive at the airport. You know, be where your good is going to arrive for you, not away from it. So this week, what you and I get to do is to look at ourselves and look at our lives, see where we are in this stream of life. Where are we in regard to the river of good? Are we still way out there in dry land? Are we still kind of looking at the river saying, well, I don't know, I mean, or are some of us right there in the middle of that, being the flow of the river? Because that's what we're all meant to be. Remember, the river is only going to take you to the ocean of good. That's all it's ever going to take you. And it doesn't mean that when you arrive at this poise and position, you don't have, people who do that don't have worries like everybody else, or troubles like everybody else, or responsibilities like everybody else, or concerns like everybody else, or shouldering, burdens like everybody else. Yes, they do. Or have to work as hard as everybody else. Yes, they do. They may have indeed, but But they do it with grace, with ease, in peace and joy, in loving relationships and creative expression, because they're surrendered to the Christ within them, and they've gone free of the angst around having to do it all themselves, because they know they don't. And that's the difference. So concerns, yes, may appear. Burdens, yes, may appear. Responsibilities, yes, may appear. Hard work, yes, may appear. But who are you in relation to all of those? Can you be the poised? Can you be the balanced? Can you be the knowingness of faith itself, showing up, knowing there's good in here for me, I'm supposed to have it, and I am journeying from good to good to good? What do you think? Are you ready for the poise of life to express itself through you? It's not going to descend upon you. It has to express itself through you. And for that to happen, you have to get out of the way. Are you ready to get out of your own way? Well, good. Then you're going to reach that state of poise. And I am knowing for you great blessings will pour through you as a result of that. And you will indeed arrive at that state of beautiful, amazing grace as the peace that passes understanding. That's Spirit's desire for you. It's my desire for you. Now make it your own desire for yourself. And so it is.